A quick disclaimer before I start the video. I am by no means a psychologist. I am not studying psychology, nor have I studied it in the past. So please take everything I say with a grain of salt. I just have an unnatural fascination with psychology. And I also have a lot of free time on my hands, so there's that too. So throughout the 6 seasons of Bojack Horseman, it has managed to address such a large scope of controversial topics, ranging from addiction to mental illness. But mental illness has definitely been a major theme in the series, and its portrayal of mental illness is the most innovative and intimate I've seen in recent media. Instead of portraying it as really melodramatic and melancholic, it takes more of a comedic approach. But this doesn't cheapen it or lessen the gravity of the issue, it just makes it a lot more easier for the audience to digest. With a show like this, it's only natural for the main characters to wave a lot of red flags, so I've structured the video to start with mild to severe forms of mental illness. So sitting on the low spectrum of the meter is Todd. Todd Chavez is a carefree guy who is also a notoriously lazy slacker. For most of the show, he lives on Bojack's couch, and if he had a motto, it would definitely be going with the flow as long as it took you forward. Out of the bunch, Todd is the most normal.
It's Susie and HR's birthday, and if I don't show up to these things, people talk. You know what I mean?
He struggles with his identity, sexuality, and self-esteem, but these all fall within the borders of normality. Most people experience these feelings. In fact, it would be unnatural and a little unrealistic if he lacked these struggles and fears. As far as mental illness goes, I don't think Todd is suffering from it. If I was to diagnose him, it would probably be ADHD, which is attention deficit hypersensitivity disorder. He does exude some traits such as impulsiveness and poor planning, but out of the list of symptoms, they seem to be the only one he consistently has. He occasionally has some of the other symptoms such as problems multitasking and focusing on a task, but he later on goes on to prove that he doesn't by babysitting Princess Carolyne's daughter Ruthie and demonstrating how efficient he was at both feats. So I honestly don't know. My final verdict would be that he's not mentally ill, but let me know in the comments if you think I'm wrong. Second is Princess Carolyne, an anthropomorphic cat who is always hardworking, put together, cleaning others' messes, and taking on more than she can actually handle. Princess Carolyne is one of the only characters in Bojack Horseman that actually seem to have their life on track. But that's until we get to see her in the episode Ruthie. It became quite apparent to me that she suffered from perfectionism. To put it shortly, perfectionism is the unreasonable ambition to get and make everything perfect. I know that doesn't even sound like a problem, but it's actually very, very self-destructive. Because in reality, everything you do isn't going to be perfect. There's practically struggles attached onto every single goal, and a normal person understands this, that it's a slow and gradual process, but the perfectionist is unable to. Instead, they take their failures as an ineptitude of themselves, rather than an inevitable part of the learning process. And this is seen in Princess Carolyne's reactions to her shortcomings. For example, when she has a miscarriage, she automatically blames it on herself, saying that maybe you didn't deserve it because you were unkind once. And this is obviously not true. In reality, miscarriages are unfortunately just a thing that happens in some pregnancies, and it's not something you can control. Her life is so centered around being perfect and succeeding, but the problem with this state of mind is that you'll never be happy. Everything is in black or white. There's no middle ground. And this is obviously a very unhealthy way to live. Next is Mr. Peanut Butter. He's a successful, energetic, and optimistic golden retriever. He's never really experienced any real challenges or difficult decisions in life, making him ignorant when it comes to street smarts. He seems perfectly fine, happy even, until you look behind the persona that is Mr. Peanut Butter. His constant need for attention and his excessive emotional behavior fit into the disorder known as histrionic personality disorder. Those diagnosed with this disorder are uncomfortable not being the center of attention. They use their physical appearance to draw attention to themselves. They speak in a theatrical way that suggests they don't really know what they're talking about. They're also easily influenced and suggestible, and they view the relationships as a lot more intimate than what they actually are. Mr. Peanut Butter ticks the box for each of these symptoms. He's always trying to be the center of attention, whether it's at a party
He said yes! Let's kick it, Erica!
or at work. He wears a fitted v-neck and outlandish light blue track pants in 2016. Tell me that this isn't an obvious ploy to draw attention to himself. He agrees with everything Todd says, no matter how stupid or paradoxical. And to top the cake, he thinks Bojack is his good friend, when in reality Bojack views him as a nuisance and a rival. Histrionic personality disorder usually goes hand in hand with depression. And yes, I do think that Mr. Peanut Butter is depressed. Depression is usually associated with someone who can't make it out of bed, but actually it varies from person to person. I believe he suffers from smiling depression. On the outside he appears to be happy, optimistic, and a high-functioning individual. But on the inside he experiences the same distress and despair anyone with a generalized form of depression would have. That takes us to our top two main characters with the most severe forms of mental illness. For me, Diane and Bojack are on the highest end of the spectrum because of the way it actively inhibits them from having a normal life, while influencing their actions, reactions, decisions, and relationships. I feel like Bojack deserves his own video so I can properly do him justice, so I'm not going to be covering him in this video, but tell me if you would like to see that in the comments below. In this vid, I'll just be capping at Diane. Diane Nguyen is a writer from Boston with Vietnamese descent. She refers to herself as a misunderstood intellectual. She's a feminist and lives with her famous and wealthy husband, Mr. Peanut Butter. Unlike all the other characters, Diane's mental illness is a major plot point, meaning it has explicitly been explored in the show, either subtly or blatantly stated. Diane is suffering from depression, an illness that warps the mind with haunting thoughts that spread hurt and fear in the individual, pushing them to feelings of numbness and to question themselves. I'm not sure where her depression stemmed from, but her childhood was definitely a major factor. Diane was the scapegoat of the family, or more commonly known as the black sheep. They are blamed for all the mistakes and faults of others. The scapegoat is usually the oddball of the family. They ask questions and have different values.
What is our background? Why do I look different from the other kids?
Shove it up your rear, you jagoff.
They tend to be traumatized by what they endured in their childhood, such as constantly being ostracized and being deprived of basic emotional needs, such as affection, love, attention, and protection.
Why don't you make like Adhd and blow?
Well, this was clearly a huge mistake.
So when they become an adult, they actively seek out these needs in their relationships. This can be seen through Diane's relationship with Mr. Peanut Butter. They are polar opposites and seem to have different values. So the question of why they were even together arises. This was because Mr. Peanut Butter showered her with all those needs: security, love, attention, etc. Also, her need to prove herself and worth manifests from this family dynamic. She struggles to find the middle ground between invisible and changing the world, an unfortunate result of the emotional abuse. So that's it for this video. If I missed anything, make sure to let me know in the comments below. I feel like I want to make this a series, but I don't really know yet. But anyways, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more anime related content.